Hello everybody, my name is Bertrand Dory and I welcome you to Design Your Dream Life. In the next hour or so, I am intending to inspire you to take action and the next step in designing the life of your dream. So sit back and relax and enjoy. Hello everybody and very welcome to Design Your Dream Life. My name is Bertrand Dory and it is such a pleasure, like every week, to be talking to you and bringing you the wisdom of our guest. It is really for me an honor and something really my heart is expanding when I'm thinking about what is said on this show, but also how this is impacting your life. That's my gift for you, because I believe that everybody can have the life that they dream of. Everybody can have everything in their life. Everybody can really live life with ease, peace, safety and joy. You know, it was not always the case for me. Last year, roughly at the same time, I was more in a position of despair, of being stuck, or not knowing where I was going. And really feeling this, that life was so difficult. And I know most of you listening to this may be feeling the same. So that's why I am so happy, and I'm really this pleasure of bringing you at least some inspiration, at least some method, at least some ways for you to feed your soul, feed your mind with some positive and some inspiration that will help you to move forward in your life. But before I get Frank Butterfield here on this show today, I would like to make a few announcements. First, Michael Lozier is coming to Ireland this Sunday. So if you know people in Ireland, that's a unique opportunity for them to be here, to listen to Michael, to learn from Michael, because Michael is one of the masters of the law of attraction. So that will be something amazing for them to be there, to be in the presence of Michael, but also to learn how they can change the way that they're living their life. Even today, after I've studied Michael's material for a while and knowing Michael for a while, I still have some of these techniques stuck on the wall of my study, because they are so powerful. And I hope that there will be many people here benefiting from this. That's my biggest wish, because it is very powerful to be able to use the law of attraction for what we desire. Also, feel free to contact me if you feel that the show is really helping you. I love receiving people's comments, people's feedback. And I know sometimes it's difficult to write to me, but I am open to this and I am replying to everybody. Maybe not within the next 24 hours, but I love this, and this is really giving me a boost to do more, even more, to help you, help other people. And it is warming my heart, so feel free to do this. My email address is Bertrand, so Bertrand, at designyourdreamlife.org. Also, feel free to go on my blog, www.designyourdreamlife.org, and look around for my latest posts in the blog, but also on the services I'm providing to help people to move forward in their life. I am launching the second version of my group coaching program this month, in September, and this time I'm going even deeper on life interaction with the group, because I know that some of the beliefs that we have, some of the constraints, some of the limitations that we have set to ourselves in our mind, to create our comfort zone, to create our inability to expand, to create our own limiting beliefs, are what is stopping us to have what we want in our life. And I have learned so much from my clients, from the different talks, the different workshops I have done in Europe mainly, that I am now able to serve you in a very more powerful way than before. So check my blog, www.designyourdreamlife.org, and check out for the announcement, because that will be one very unique coaching program done over teleclass, done in a very unique way, because I want to go deep subject by subject so that we can make the transformation that we need in our lives. And finally, check out Forward Focus magazine. You know, I have my column in this magazine, but also every single day or every couple of days there are new articles, new people interacting with this magazine, and there is something for you in this. So check it out, and check out for my new column probably next week about our comfort zone, because I believe that this is one of the key for becoming more and becoming who we are. So now I have the privilege to have Frank Butterfield here. Frank has created the Communion of Light community, but also he is able to channel the connection of non-physical entities who are helping people, helping me, helping you, to look at life differently, to have a different perspective, and also help us to know what we have to do moving forward in our life. It is quite amazing to hear him doing his channeling and then listening to the wisdom of these entities and what they have to say. It resonates incredibly powerfully, not only with the words that they're using, but also with the energy that they're transposing to us. So stay tuned, and after this small break, we will have Frank here with us.
You are listening to your daily dose of well-being and inspiration on Law of Attraction Radio Network at LOARadionetwork.com. Hear this incredible show on your smartphone through Stitcher.com, which goes through your car stereos with Ford Sync or any auto dashboard that has the internet. Listen to our 24/7 broadcast with our mobile app as well, or just listen through an MP3 player or computer. Remember, LOARadionetwork.com, heard in over 120 countries, is the radio station for your well-being.
You're listening to Design Your Dream Life. I am Bertrand Dory, and I'm welcoming you back to the show. So welcome back to the show, and now I have the privilege to have Frank Butterfield with me. Hi Frank, how are you?
Hi Bertrand, I'm very great. Thank you so much for having me. This is wonderful.
Yeah, we were just chatting before, and you were saying that where you live, it's really, really hot currently. And at some level I envy you, because here it's quite of grey and dull, but I guess that it's really, really very hot now.
Yes, well, it will be later on today. Right now it's kind of nice, but this afternoon it's going to be very hot. And it's been like this all summer long, so we're ready for the weather to change.
It will change at some stage, yeah. So Frank, you are really in charge of this this website or this community called the Communion of Light. So can you tell us a bit more what it is?
Well, Communion of Light refers to a couple of different things. One is that it refers to an experience that I bring about as a channel, and I open myself up to a collection of non-physical beings who speak through me. And when we come together and talk with them, they refer to that experience as being a communion of light. But it also refers to a website, communionoflight.com, where there's just a collection of all of the things that we're doing, different writings, recordings. We have an online membership community called The Village that where we get together 3 times a week, different times of the week, so that anyone around the world can be connecting with us and have question and answer conversations with my non-physical friends. So it's a wonderful place. It's a wonderful place to go and just hang out and explore. And it's a wonderful experience to have when we come together in that way, in that communion of light. It's amazing what happens, just the insight, how it feels, where we go with it, how I just love the reports I get over and over and over again from all sorts of people who say that what really has happened for them is they have really been able to relax, to let go of really thorny stuff, to find relief, to find the answers, very practical answers for very specific questions they're having. So it's a really wonderful thing, and this is the only thing that I do, and I absolutely, completely love it, and feel really honored that I get to do this.
Yeah, we can feel this in your voice, that it's something that you are very passionate about, but it's more than this. I can really feel in your voice that this joy of doing this. And can you explain me a little bit more about what's really happening and how you channel this?
Well, I've been channeling for 21 and a half years. And it's taken on different forms. And the Communion of Light is kind of the evolution of where things started and then how things progressed. But essentially what I do is I close my eyes and I reach out for that broader, more expansive energy. And I just imagine that it's swirling around me. And really that's it. Now, that's a shortcut for a lot of different things that have become kind of an automatic practice over the last several years. But I just open to that. My voice changes a little bit when I start talking. They're a lot smarter than me. They're a lot wiser than me. They're a lot funnier than I am in a lot of ways. But it's still me. It's just kind of an amplified version of me. So I translate this energy that I'm receiving, and I get it mostly through words, but sometimes pictures and sounds, but mostly through words. And it's just a wonderful, delicious interaction. And my favorite way to do it, I interact with people in all sorts of different ways, but over the phone, in these kind of group settings, in conference calls, but also we'd also do live workshops, and that's really my favorite because there's so much more practical, it's so much more grounded, it's so much more in the real world, and I really love that aspect of it. And I really do love, one of the things that I really love about the messages that come through is their focus on saying how, this is a really great place to be where we are. And there's a whole lot of really good stuff going on here. And I really love that kind of practical, grounded approach from them. It's really yummy.
Yeah, I can feel this. And they are very wise because it's true that we are in this perfect world. And because we are focusing on things that don't really work well in our life, we tend to forget that everything around us is so beautiful and so lovely. And that's great. So how did you discover that you had this gift of channeling?
Well, I wouldn't really call it a gift. I would call it more like a proclivity or a desire. So it's a long story, but the very brief version of it is I saw people channeling on television through a movie back in 1987 that was made from a book by Shirley MacLaine called Out on a Limb. And in that movie, there's two different times where she goes to see different channels. And I saw that and I thought, I really want this. And about the same time, I also found the Seth material by Jane Roberts and read pretty much every one of the books that was ever published by her, both the nonfiction and the fiction. And the fiction stuff is actually a lot of fun that she wrote based on the Seth teachings. And then after about 3 or 4 years of that, I came across a book that is called Opening to Channel, which is still in print and available literally everywhere. And I picked up that book and I sat down one afternoon and went through the whole book. I don't recommend that. It was too fast. But I went through the whole book, and by that evening I was channeling, and I came in to connect with my own personal guide named Raji, who explained to me that he was there to help me start this journey, and then after I kind of opened up enough to the bigger part of what I was going to be doing, he would leave. And that is exactly what happened. And then there's like this middle period of time where I forgot that I knew how to channel. And I put forgot in quotes because I didn't really forget. I just kind of ignored it. And I spent about 10 years in the corporate world doing quote-unquote real-life things. And after a while, I began to realize I was very successful, which was nice, and I made a whole bunch of money, and that was great. But after a while, I began to realize I was trying to be a square peg in a round hole, and it just wasn't a good fit. So I left. It took a few years to kind of catch up with myself, and then in 2007 is when the communion of light came about in the way that it is now. They've always been around. It's just that's when I was ready to do what I'm doing now. But I really wouldn't call it a gift because anybody who wants to is capable of doing this, but you have to want to do it. And it's a wonderful thing for me, at least, because it really, whenever I'm doing it, I get to spend time in a very restful state, connecting to the bigger part of who I am, and that's always a good thing.
Yeah, I can see this and understand this But for me, I'm just discovering that everybody can do this, and that's a surprise to me, to be honest with you, because I thought that this was a gift that you will receive, and so on.
Well, it's an interesting thing historically to look at it, because if you want to make something very veiled and very secret, you're going to run around saying, "Oh, this is a gift. This is a gift." But also, so that's, I think, part of it. But I think another part of it is I think that the collective consciousness is now at a place where more people are now able to plug into something like this, because there's more flexibility in how we hold ourselves. Even though there's a whole bunch of things going on that most of us don't like, and that's okay, this is still a time of great opening and awakening. And when I say a time, I mean like the last 150 years. This isn't just a new thing. So people are tuning into things that they really want to tune into that are satisfying at a soul level. And that's a really, really wonderful thing to be, at least for me personally, it's a wonderful thing to be part of and to get to witness.
Yeah, that's wonderful, yeah. So people who are coming to see you and coming to join the village, what are they really looking to get out of this? What are they looking as per answers or peace or I don't know?
Well, I think that most people who are drawn to this work, there's a couple of things in common. One is that they understand what it is first. It's very rare that anybody shows up and says, "I'm here, I don't know why, and I don't know what this is." Most people who show up have a really good idea of what it is. They've probably been exposed to something else like Abraham. I know a lot of the people in the village, particularly, we're going to Abraham workshops, or we're going to reading books, and not just Abraham, but from a lot of different places. And what they wanted was to take what they were learning and take it to the next stage. Bring it into as practical a place as possible to make it apply to them personally, and to discover what it means to be these amazing, magnificent beings of light that we are, having this incredible physical experience. And in Communion of Light, there's a lot of conversation about, we're in the right place at the right time. Everything is good. It's just a matter of tuning into that. It's just a matter of noticing that. And they'll say very specifically that they're not teachers or healers, but that people do learn things, which they certainly do in their presence, and that things get resolved, that people find relief, they find healing, they find answers to really difficult questions in their presence. But it's because there's no teaching or healing focus, it's just reminding us of who we are. It's pretty simple and straightforward. So the wonderful thing about being in the village is that you have that interaction with them as much as you want, with as many questions as you have about whatever is going on in your life. But at the same time, just being in those sessions, and that applies to being in a live workshop, that applies to anything, the private sessions, whatever it is, or just even reading the material or listening to recordings, there's an energy that's happening around the information or around the experience that is very opening and allowing. And if you are willing to, you can really find some great relief just being present in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do understand this, and I have experienced this in some group meditation, but I never experienced this in the village. So I may be tempted to come and join and just look around and see how I could find my own answers at some stage and find where I can go from this place. So you're mentioning also the teaching of Abraham. So how different is this then from what Esther is doing?
Well, it's similar and yet it's different. The ways in which it's similar is that in my own translation, I use the language that Esther has developed in her translation of Abraham. So the way Communion of Light will explain it is they will say, what's really going on here is that Esther, not Abraham, but Esther has developed a language that makes things very easy to understand and very accessible in ways that's kind of new. it's not, the concepts are not new. The language itself really isn't new, but it's the way that she uses the language to translate the concepts. And of course, that's, someone's going to come along and do it better than either she or I do. And, then someone will come along and do it better than them, and on and on. That's just the nature of evolution. But we're evolving into this place where it's easy to have these conversations about what are some really radical concepts, like you create your own reality, and how you feel is a bellwether. It's an indicator of what's going on vibrationally. That's a tremendously radical notion. To say that there's nothing wrong with how you're feeling, it's just an indication of where you are vibrationally on any given subject. That's an amazing concept that for some people is just so completely out of this world they can't even quite figure it out. But what Abraham and Esther have done is taught this is how this works. Whereas with the communion of light, they'll say, okay, now you know this. Now you understand this concept. And they'll go back to it and refer to it and explain it in more detail and bring more depth to it and amplify it in different ways. So it's not just we're going from Abraham material and expanding. It's Abraham plus a lot of other things. But it's not the Abraham teachings themselves. It's the concepts that Abraham has been very good at translating, and Esther has been very good at translating, that now we're picking up and moving forward with in very personal ways. Instead of it being a broad teaching that applies generally to everyone, now it's let's see how we can apply these teachings specifically. Let's see how we can live our lives exactly the way we want to. And you said something just a moment ago that I really love. What could you come into the village and find a way to get the answers to your own questions? How you get your answer to your question is a really big thing that we talk about. In other words, they'll say over and over again, you don't need us for this. All we're doing is reminding you of what you already have, and you have the ability to get everything that you want from where you are. And you don't need to read a book. You don't need to go to somebody. You don't need a guru. You don't need a teacher. It's all within you. And if you want some reminding about how that works, we'll certainly do that. But you don't need us for it. And they're very clear. They say that over and over and over again. So that's one of the things that I really, really love, that kind of integrity, because in my mind, at least for me personally, that's very much the case. And I personally am not interested in any teaching or anything that says it can only happen here, because everything is within us, and that's just the bottom line. We're capable of solving our own problems, so to speak. Sometimes it's nice to know exactly how to do it, so.
Yes, I completely get this, that we have everybody of us have the capacity to do this and the ability to do this. But sometimes we are in a life and things are just happening. If you want, I just survived a breakup in a relationship, and then you wonder how you can move forward from this. And that's really some questions that, the teaching of Abraham are giving me some peace and some soothing about the situation. But still the question is that, what do I do from here?
Right. And, it's a great question. What do I do from here? And having that question, you're going to get the answer to it, particularly if you're open to that. What I think is really interesting is that one of the things that Paul, who is the voice that speaks for the communion of light, so you'll hear me say both names, but I'll use Paul in this case, that Paul will say about this is that asking the question, how did I get here, is not a really good question to ask. You can ask it, but there's never really going to be an answer that's satisfactory, because it presupposes that we did something wrong, which is never the case. And I really, really, really love that. So I love the idea of saying, okay, I'm here in this place and it sucks and I don't like it. I've just been through this big breakup, or I've just been through this thing or this thing or this thing, or I'm in the middle of it, or whatever it may be, and I don't like it. And it's great to know that I don't like it. And what do I want now? The thing that I really, really, really love about what happens in these conversations is the really gentle reminders that keep coming over and over again. Just find some way to feel better from where you are. Find one thought that feels better. Find one word that feels better when you're saying it. Find one thing to do that feels better in the action of it. I love that because it's all vibration. And so when we can improve the vibration, the things happening around us will line up more and more and more into where we want to be. And it's pretty simple. It's just that that's not at all the way we were taught. And so there's a lot of undoing going on here and a lot of reminding of how this actually works and how powerful our thoughts are.
Yeah, completely, and I get this, and I think that you're right. It's finding a better place, a better feeling, something to do that is going to ease a little bit, and then bring us a bit more, maybe not joy straight away, but just a change of focus of what we're focusing on. It's helping us a lot. Yeah, you're right. Our thoughts are very, very powerful, and it is difficult still to fully embrace this, that our thoughts are very powerful, because we don't have any proof of them, really. Or do you have ways of proving how powerful our thoughts are?
Well, if you try to go, but that's kind of the paradox, isn't it? The minute you start trying to prove that this is true because of the way it works, and when I say the way it works, I mean the way the universe is set up. You know, when we use the phrase law of attraction, we're not talking about a technique or a process. We're talking about just a description of how thoughts work. That's all. And how the physical universe itself comes forth into manifestation. So if you're going down a route and you're trying to prove something, what is happening is that if at the basis of that proof is, I will feel better when I've proven that this is true, you're never going to feel better. So you're probably never going to get the results you want. And you could even get proof of what you're looking for, but you'll ignore it because you're thinking, yeah, but I'm not there yet, because I'm waiting for this thing that's going to happen later. That's the paradox. So paradoxically, so turning it upside down, if we're okay, to me, the real key here is to be okay with where I am. If I'm okay with where I am, that proof that I thought, I wonder if this is true. Maybe this isn't true. Maybe it is true. I don't know. But if I'm okay with where I am, that gives that thought time to come home and bring me proof. I have tons of anecdotal proof that my thoughts are creating my reality. Tons and tons and tons of it that's very personal to me, that I could say, oh, it's this and this and this, and you could easily come back and say, oh, that's just all coincidence. And I'm like, yeah, coincidence that's been going on for 20-something years, over and over and over and over, where I was in the right place at the right time, over and over and over and over and over again. And that not just being in the right place at the right time, but I had a very clear idea of this is what I wanted, and that is exactly what I got, that or something actually even better than that. But it's all very personal to me, and it's all very anecdotal. The problem we have when we start talking about proving these concepts is that most of us are using some sort of quasi-scientific, like, if I can just get evidence of it, then I'll believe it. But that's what makes this, I know that's what makes people who really love the scientific method or who are very linear in their thinking, it just drives them nuts about this concept, which is fine. The idea that the universe is set up so that you can only get what you're looking for, but you have to be willing to allow it to come to you, drives a lot of people crazy, because they think, well, but I need proof before I will do it. And the interesting thing is that the more they try to do that, the further away it gets. So the paradox is, in my mind, it comes right down to the very bottom line of how to live our lives, period, which is, or the way that, at least for me, works best. If I can find a way to be okay with where I am, while at the same time wanting more of what I'm wanting, like more peace, more joy, more abundance, more connections, more friendships, more romance, more whatever it is, and to feel more alive in my own skin, and to feel more buoyant in my own body, and to feel more present in my own experience, but still be okay with where I am. It's very easy to move into all of those expanded things. It's the moment that I start reaching for them, the way that I was taught to do so in school. Because I don't really, there's very, very few people who've been educated, no matter what culture they're in, where education wasn't made a competitive process. Your progress, you're scored against the other people that you're in school with. And even if your score isn't based on their score, you're still like, well, who got the highest score and who got the lowest score? There's still this sense of like, well, I've got to work harder and I've got to try harder. And yeah, there's lots and lots of proof that the harder you work, the better you can really achieve what you want. The thing is that happens over and over and over again, and it's in all of our cultural stories, is that when people are trying really, really, really hard, what almost always happens is there's a point where they finally just give up through sheer exhaustion. And it's at that moment when what they've been striving for actually begins to fall into place. The way that's often interpreted is the harder you work, you've got to do every single thing you can think of and then stop. But I know for myself, at least, what I find to be much more efficient is to give up first and then follow my intuition, which is another aspect of this, my intuition towards the goal that I'm wanting to achieve. And it's a dance. It's a back and forth. It's a continuously unfolding process. I've been doing this almost all my adult life, and I can't even say that I'm anywhere close to being good at it. Because I'm still dealing with the thoughts that I have about I've got to work harder, I've got to do more, I've got to strive more, I've got to prove that what I'm doing is the right thing, which is another one of those things that's really festering in our culture. That I've got to make sure that everybody agrees that what I'm doing is right. Or the opposite, which is the same thing just in a different way. I'm going to show them and pushing against them instead of trying to pull on them. When I just decide, look, it doesn't really matter what anybody else thinks. It doesn't even really matter what I think about what they think. The point is, I'm going to feel better from where I am. And I'm going to use my intuition. I'm going to follow the natural flow that I've already set up of all of the things that I'm looking for that will lead me to more and more and more of
them. Yeah, I completely get this. And to be honest with you, this is the way I'm trying now to live my life. And because I gave up the fight in the last year and a half when I had a very, very big change in my life, a really huge change. And I found that there was magic in just allowing things to come to us. But still, it's a very difficult concept when things are right, when you are in the flow and things are coming to you. It's very easy to be in the flow. But when you are hitting some obstacle, or when you are lacking money, let's say, and every month and every day you are confronted with the fact that you need to spend, and you just see money going out of your bank account and nothing coming in, how will we help people who are listening to this show finding some kind of peace with this, and what can they do?
Well, this isn't going to work for everybody, but one thing that I find to be really helpful is to stop looking at the bank account and stop looking at it. Yeah, because what look, this conversation, the conversation you and I are having, is very much grounded in our knowledge, not our belief. And I'm going to speak for you, so correct me if I'm wrong. But it's grounded in our knowledge, personal knowledge, that we really do create our reality. There's just, for me, I have no doubt about that. That's not a question. So I'm going to just talk from that perspective. So if I look at the bank account and I'm thinking, wow, because you're talking to someone, this is the way I live my life, and I live what a lot of people would say very much on the edge. because there are times when I don't have any money at all, and there are times when I'm completely flush with money. And I'm okay with that. It's a continuously evolving process, because the thing that I'm committed to for myself is I'm only going to create money. I'm not interested in making money. And that's a distinction that I've come up with, because making money for me is a mechanical, unconscious process, which is okay. I've done it before, and it works, and it's great to have a paycheck or to have residual income or to have payments from a trust or from stocks or bonds, whatever, where it's just this, you just know that there's this process that's going to happen and it's continuously unfolding. That's great. What I'm doing, because it's what I really, really love, and I feel like the sky is the limit, is I'm creating money. So what I do is I decide how much money I want, and then I focus on that in lots of different ways, and then I allow it to come to me. And it's a dance between doing and not doing, as you well know. So I do my dance, but at the same time, if I look at my bank account while I'm in the middle of doing this, for any other reason other than to say it's bigger than it was before, I'm doing myself a huge disservice. Facing the quote unquote, facing the reality of my bank account is probably one of the least powerful things I can do. What's more powerful is to just close my eyes and to imagine I'm already having what I'm wanting, and to feel what that feels like, and to get into the feeling of the relief or the confidence or the feeling of success or achievement or whatever it is that I'm looking for in that. It's mostly, for me, relief. It's mostly, okay, that's really great, and that's done, and that's wonderful, and now I'm moving on to the next thing that this is now given birth to. Okay. To me, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is, to me, what I'm doing here is I'm actually, for me, because I'm just that stupid, I'm acting out very deliberately in a way that I can see and observe something that I know has always been going on, but I want to see exactly how it works for me personally. And I want to then take that and just keep amplifying it and making it bigger and bigger and bigger. And that is actually what's been going on. So I've been doing this thing that I've described. I've been doing this for at least 4 years. Well, probably more like 5. Although at the beginning, I don't think I was very conscious of doing it. But after a while, I began to realize what I was doing was actually creating money. And in a way, I'm creating money out of thin air, because I really don't know where it's going to come from. It's not like I could say, oh, well, I know so-and-so owes me money, or I'm putting out this new product, or I'm putting out this new service, and I just know that scads of people will come to it, and I'll just have all the money that I want. That's not usually what happens. Usually what happens is that I have an idea of, okay, I want to buy this, like I want to buy a car. And, okay, so then I, get in some clarity about what I need to be doing, which sometimes isn't a lot. In fact, most of the time it's very little. And then as I pay attention to that and just let the ideas flow and follow my intuition, then I get in alignment with, okay, all right, so what I'm going to visualize here, what I'm going to imagine here is this happening and this happening, and I want to get the feeling of it. And that's the most important part. I want to get the feeling of having arrived at the place where I'm wanting to go. And when I do that, then things begin to happen. Sometimes there are long periods of time where there's no action to take. And in fact, right in this moment, right here, right now, in my real life right now, that's actually something that I'm learning how to walk with. That I was trained all of my life to be really busy and just keep going and going and going. I was told when I was a kid that I was lazy. And I spent then like the next 25 years trying to prove that I wasn't. And now I'm in the midst of learning that actually non-action in a lot of ways is much more powerful than action. So it doesn't mean I don't do things, because I do lots of things. Obviously, I'm having this conversation with you, for example. But there's oftentimes periods of time around specific issues where there's just no action to take. Things are just not lined up yet. So I am learning how to be okay with that and how to not just jump into the fray and get things done and then move on. And it's different. And it's kind of a challenge. And but I'm enjoying it immensely because the payoffs are huge.
Yeah, but also when you're doing this and just, as you say, visualizing and intending and already feeling what it will feel like, there's this part of us that is kind of scared of not letting go, but of not doing nothing. And then we are kind of pushed to take some action. And what you are saying is that we should just slip back into an ease and then just feel exactly what we need to take. Because you, from your website and with the call that you have every week, you have 3 of them, and you have probably private clients, and you probably meet a lot of people. You're quite busy also.
I am, I've got more work to do than possibly do. So, which is great, and I'm learning how to do things like when. This is going to upset some people when I say this, but that's okay. There are times when I feel like, when I'm very aware of the fact that I have, for instance, a client scheduled, let's say tomorrow. This isn't a real thing right now, but let's say I had a client scheduled tomorrow, and I just keep getting this feeling of I don't want to do it. Before, what I would have done is I would have pushed through and just shown up and done it. Now what I'm doing is I'm noticing when I don't want to do things, and I'm not doing them. No, I'm not rudely not doing them. So what I'll do in that instance, and I've done this many times, is I'll contact the client and say, I just don't feel like this is the right time for us to do this. Or if something does come up that conflicts and I can't figure out which one to do, I'll go with the one that feels better. And so sometimes I have to reschedule the time that I work with people. It's always turned out to be better for both of us. Always, always, always. But there's a social nicety that says that that's not a good thing to do. Because if you say you're going to do something, you should do it. And I don't really agree with that. I agree with because what I want to say that I'm going to always do is I'm always going to do what feels better. That's what I always want to do, which sometimes means I'm going to rearrange my calendar, or sometimes it means I'm going to cancel something because it doesn't feel good. There's something about it that doesn't feel good. There was also a time when what I would have done is when something did not feel good to me, I would have stopped to ask myself what I was sabotaging or what I was blocking or why it was that I wasn't wanting to do that. And I don't do that anymore. Because what I noticed was I never got satisfactory answers. But the answers I always got were just like kept progressively feeling worse and worse and worse. And they just kept pointing to me being less and less and less of who I know myself to be. And finally, it took a while, but Paul finally, in the Communion of Light, it finally got clear to me in my conversations with them that what I was doing was trying to figure out what I was doing wrong, when in fact all that was happening is I was just getting an intuition, don't go there, just go in this direction, go over here instead. And that had to do again with people, very well-meaning people a long time ago saying to me over and over and over again, you've always got to follow through on everything that you do. Which what that actually meant to them is don't inconvenience me by changing my schedule. That's actually what it meant. But I didn't know that at the time. And I took on what they were saying without really questioning it. Now I really understand. My intuition is much more important than my calendar. And it always works out better when I follow my intuition. Always, 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 always.
So when you're saying... When you're saying your intuition, is it the fact that you are channeling at this moment and you're asking the non-physical to help you, or is it really something that you feel inside you?
That's the most amazing thing. I have to say, it's the thing that has shocked me. It continues to shock me that when I go to them and I say, tell me what to do, they have nothing to offer. And it's not that they don't. It's not that they just sit there like they have their arms folded. That's not what I mean. That what they'll say is, "What do you want to do?" And they'll say very plainly, very clearly, "We can't tell you what to do. You're the only one who knows. We can't read your mind. No one can read your mind. Some people can get very good at it, or good at guessing. But no one can ever really read another person's mind. All that you can ever do is see the vibrational trace that it leaves. But I'll go to them. I've done this, and for years, and said, okay, just, in this kind of moment of desperation, just tell me what to do. And we'd never get an answer, which would then feel even worse, right? So then I began to realize, okay, well, there's something wrong with this question. It's not the right question. The right question is, what do I want to do next? What feels better to me next? That's the intuition. The way that they describe it, and I really love this, is that they'll say, look, we're constantly being bombarded with intuition from our higher self or inner being. That's the Abraham word, inner being. That we're constantly being bombarded with intuition about everything that we're observing. And so when we pay attention to it and just follow what feels better, that's always going to lead us exactly where we want to go in the totality of everything that we want, not just on a specific area, but because we're never just really focused on one thing at a time. We're dynamic beings, so we have this multitude of experiences happening simultaneously, some of which we're focused on and some of which we're not, but they're still happening. So if we just keep following what feels better, and the way they describe it is, it's very, if you look at it from the most basic way, it's very on-off, yes, no, red light, green light, go, stop. It's very basic, very, very basic. So you can look at anything, and if you feel better, go in that direction. If you feel worse, turn away from it. It's that simple. And there's a part of me that kind of wants to shake myself by the shoulders and say, it's that simple. That's all that's really required. It's that simple. Just follow that. Everything will work out for the best. And when I do that, it's amazing what happens. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Just incredible. And I'm continuously getting better at it, and I wouldn't say I'm anywhere close to being really great at it. But I'm getting better at it, better and better and better and better. And maybe I need to change the way I'm saying that. Let me rephrase that, actually. I am getting better and better at doing it, and I'm doing it better now than I've ever done my entire life, ever. So it's a progressive thing, always a little bit better. But that's what I mean by intuition. It's not channeling, because I used to try that, and I would say to anybody listening that if you go to a psychic, intuitive, a coach, a healer, a teacher, a guru, a channel, and you say, tell me what to do, it's a really bad question to ask. A really great question to ask is this is what I want more and more and more of. Now, how do I get more of it? And not in the sense of what actions do I take, although they might have some really good suggestions. But how do I amplify this feeling? How do I get into alignment with it? Because everything is vibration, and it's alignment that happens first. So it's a very interesting thing, this intuition, because it's extremely simple. It's always there. It also happens to usually be the quietest voice that's talking. But it's the most consistent voice, and it's persistent but not insistent. It never says you have to do this. It just is like, that would be better. That feels better. Go in that direction. Call this person. Try this.
Yeah, and you're right. It is. I'm sometimes in touch with my intuition, and you're right. That's when I'm making the best decision. But sometimes I have kind of the question that comes also from my mind and saying, oh, what is the best direction here? And then I'm asking my intuition, but because I'm asking my intuition, then I can't hear anything, because I'm expecting some kind of answer to come back. And it's funny, because you're right, it is a very, very small voice, and it's really just triggering some emotions, some feelings. And when we can be in touch with this, it opens to a lot of miracles.
Now, some people do get very good, though, and there are times that I can do this better than others. But some people do get very good at translating those on-off signals into much more complex conversations. So I'm not saying that, within oneself that you won't get answers, because I get all sorts of amazing conversations I get all sorts of amazing insight from my conversations that I have within myself with Paul. So Paul is really my higher self, I suppose, would be a way of saying it. Esther said the same thing about Abraham. It's really my higher self. It's just a very broad version of my higher self. So when I have those interactions with them, I do get all sorts of answers. But the directional, how I live my life in the moment stuff comes directly from me. And I don't quite know how to describe the difference because it's a very subtle distinction. Because it's really the same thing, but it's a little bit different. I think probably the difference that I'm noticing is it's not, the guidance that I receive is not directional, parental, instructional. It doesn't mandate. It doesn't direct. It doesn't impel. It doesn't push. It's just like a signal. And in Abraham has talked about it in this way, and I really like this idea. It's like the warmer, colder game. You know, you have a blindfold on, and you have a friend saying, okay, you know, and you're looking for the apple, and they've hidden it somewhere, and they're saying, okay, you're warmer, you're colder, you're warmer, you're colder, and the closer you're getting, they're saying warmer, 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 and the further away you're getting, they're saying colder, colder, colder. That's the way our emotions are. The further we are away from what we really want, the worse we feel. And the closer we are to it, the better we feel. And the way we get closer is through the thoughts that we're thinking. But that's also how, that is our guidance. That's our intuition talking right there. So if I'm thinking about my money situation and I'm feeling pretty awful about it, the thoughts that I'm thinking about it are what is causing the awful feeling, not the other way around. And because we were taught as children to not trust our feelings, and not just children, it's in the culture everywhere. Don't trust how you feel, because how you feel is irrational, or it's emotional, or it's erratic, or it's not trustworthy. You need to be linear and logical. Because that's the message. It's sometimes very difficult to remember, oh, wait a second. The fact that I feel bad is not because of where I am. It's because of what I'm thinking about where I am. So when I begin to change my thoughts, and I keep following those better feeling thoughts, not only will I start to feel better, I'll also know what to do. I'll also know where to go. I'll also be much clearer about what to say to other people or how to interact, what actions to take, the really powerful, leveraged ones. And the better I feel about it, the clearer I get and the more intentional I get about it, the better I'm going to feel. And then before I know it, I'm right there on top of what I've been wanting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all to allow and really to let life unfold and trusting that our emotions are here to serve us, and sometimes they're just guiding us to ask a different question or change the focus of what we're watching. And I think that is very, very powerful. Frank, can I get a little taste of your channeling? Is it okay?
Oh yeah, sure, of course.
Yeah,
it works best if you have questions. So if you have questions you want to throw at them, feel free, and that we can just run with that.
Okay, so I have questions about my relationships. And
okay. And I don't tell me, because it's better if you save that for them. So the way this works is I'm just going to take about 10 seconds to center myself and to get clear and to connect with them, and then they'll introduce themselves. You'll hear there's a slight change in my voice, and then they'll ask you very directly what questions you have.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, perfect.
Wonderful. So enjoy, and I'll talk to you when we're done. Yes, indeed, and we are very much enjoying entering into this communion of light with you, and we are finding ourselves quite pleased and quite honored to be connecting with you in all of the ways that we are doing so here today. And we are wondering, indeed, and we are wondering, what questions are you having for us this day?
I have two questions, in fact. One is about my relationships, and wondering where is it going, and whether I will find the right person for me. And the second thing is about the money situation. How can I attract more money and create some more money?
Well, in a way, we could say that you're asking really the same question about two different topics. And the reason why we say that is because for you, quite specifically, they're wrapped up together in the sense that you know that you no longer want to be at the effect of the thoughts that you have funked in the past. What you want to be experiencing more and more of is what you yourself want as opposed to what you were willing to have. And there's a difference. It's a really wonderful thing to be willing to have whatever it is that comes your way, because that kind of openness then allows you vibrationally to move closer to where you really want to be. Resisting what you don't want never really works the way you think it's going to. Pushing away things, as you very well know, doesn't work. So when you're saying, I don't want to be poor, or I don't want to be single, you're just digging your heels in deeper in poverty and singlehood. But when you begin to say, I'm okay with where I am around my money, and I'm okay with where I am around my relationships, then you're beginning the process of opening up to what you want more and more of. That's why, as our friend Frank said, our favorite thing to say to you is give up now, let go now, and then begin to dream of what you're wanting more of. So, for example, when it comes to your relationships, you know from what you've experienced in the past what really floats your boat, what really turns you on. And we're not talking about anything specific. We just mean that there's a whole range of issues when you are in a relationship that really works for you, that's very juicy and that's very delicious. You know what's going on, at least in your experience, that feels very, very, very good to you. Do you not? And you also know that you've only just hit the tip of the iceberg. You just know some of the things, and there's a lot more that's possible. So if we were in your shoes, what we would be doing there is we would be taking every opportunity we could get. Whatever you're doing in your daily life, whether it's you're going to bed, you're waking up, you're taking a shower, you're dressing, you're making a meal, you're eating a meal, you're talking to a friend, you're drinking a beer, you're doing this, you're doing that, whatever it is that you're doing. If we were in your shoes, we would be taking every one of those moments and imagining, what would this moment be like if I was with my beloved? Now, the tricky part here is to not think of it in the sense of, I really wish she was here, but she's not. But rather to just imagine that the situation that you're in, let's say that you're having a meal with a friend, and instead of the two of you sitting there, there's three of you. And just for a moment, you don't have to do this for very long, 10 seconds, 15 seconds at the most. Just for a moment, imagine what it feels like in the dynamic and how it would be different. And the ebb and the flow of the conversation, and how topics would probably go in other directions, or it might really amplify on this. Just begin to imagine what that feels like. When you're making a meal for yourself, imagine what it would be like if you were cooking a meal for both of you. Or imagine what it would feel like if you were in the other room smelling someone else cooking a meal for you. Or if the two of you were in the kitchen together cooking and joking and laughing and enjoying each other. Just begin to imagine those things that you know you really want. And while you're doing this, pay attention to the thoughts that arise that say, but I don't have it, but I can't have it. We don't mean pay attention and fix those. What we mean is pay attention and just notice, yeah, that thought's there. I'm a little bit disconnected from, I'm not really sure I can have this thing that I'm dreaming of. But the key for you, and we wouldn't necessarily say this to everyone, but what we're noticing in your vibration is the key for you there is to not really pay attention to those thoughts. Allow them to be there, but don't believe them, because they're not true. The more you train your vibration towards what you really like, what feels really delicious to you and what feels really good, and the more time you spend over there, these other thoughts, particularly as you give them room to balloon up, just like little balloons that are just floating off into the sky and they're going to go away, because they really will. If you don't latch on to them and you don't say, oh my gosh, I don't have this and I really got to make sure I get it, That's not what we're suggesting at all. What we're suggesting is just notice, I don't have this, and that sucks, and I don't like that. That's okay. That kind of openness, that kind of willingness to let yourself have the thought that you're thinking without having to try to fix it or cure it or heal it or transform it. Just let it bubble up, because it will naturally bubble up and it will bubble away. And it will evolve away from you. It will not come back to bother you unless you come over the same topic again with the same vibration. But what you will notice is if you practice that, you'll have less and less and less of the thoughts that you don't like and more and more of the thoughts that you do like, because you're not putting a lot of attention on what you don't like, but you're putting a lot of attention on what you do like. So we can't tell you if you're going to meet the one. What we can tell you is that if you decide that you want to meet the next one, with whom you want to have a very delicious relationship for however long it may last, which, if we were in your shoes, would not be a concern to us at all. Because every day spent in a delicious relationship with anyone at any level is a wonderful day indeed. But you have these wonderful relationships all around you right now. We know you're talking about this very specific kind of relationship with a beloved where you share your life in this very specific way. But we also want you to understand that that love that's there between you and her, the one you have not yet met, is also there between you and everyone else that you come across. So you're not missing anything. There's just something that you want more of. Do you understand all of this?
Yeah, I do understand all of this. Yeah, I was thinking about this, but yeah, I do understand. It's true.
So, indeed. So what else?
I think that's it. Thank you very much. I think it was a lot of good insight, and I'm really, really grateful for this.
Very good. Very good. And we thank you for your very, very delicious question. Okay.
Okay, that was quite an amazing experience. I could feel quite a lot of things happening here.
Awesome. Wonderful. It was very nice.
Okay, Frank, thank you very much, because our time also is running up on the show. It's nearly 1 hour. If people want to go in contact with you, so when you are offering your services, one-to-one services, are you doing channeling services for people like you did on this show, or what are you doing?
Yeah, it's all one-on-one sessions, just like you just did, those kinds of question and answers. So any interaction with Paul is just like that, whether it's in a group setting or whether it's in one-on-one, whether it's live or on a workshop, it's always the same. It's always just questions and answers.
Yeah, but it's more than this, because I could feel some kind of unknown energy to me. I never felt this before. I'm quite sensitive to energy, so it was kind of a new experience. It was kind of really, really felt good.
Well, they'll say that 20% of the conversation is verbal and 80% of it's non-physical.
Ah, okay, that's why. Yeah, that's what I felt. It felt really, really good. It was amazing. And if people want to get in contact with you, the best way to do this is to contact you via your website.
That's right, communionoflight.com.
Yeah, and then there is a contact page below, so they can have more information about the village, about and the rest that you are offering.
Right.
Okay, so thank you very much, Frank. It was a pleasure talking to you and a pleasure talking to Paul. So thank him next time you go and channel with him. And I really enjoyed this, and I'm sure that the listeners of the show will enjoy this too. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. It was a real pleasure.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to Design Your Dream Life. I hope in the last hour or so I inspire you to take the next steps and action in order to create the life of your dreams. My name is Bertrand Dory, and it has been a real pleasure. If you want to find more about myself, feel free to visit my website on www.designyourdreamlife.org. And to find more about the show, go on this website, radio.designyourdreamlife.org. So thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to talking to you very soon. Bye-bye.